What's up, guys? Welcome back to ResTube. I am Danny Riggs. Thanks a lot for tuning in. The segment I'd like to do today, as you just saw on the title card, is called Autographed Artifacts. And that is actually something that started for me way before I became a Residence fan. That is, well, let's just take a little look at some weird stuff in my office. Roll clip. Enough said. But before I get started, I'd like to give an extra special shout out and a big thank you to Robbie Beck, who was the one who actually sold me his Bigfoot Beware Die Hard edition. So Robbie, thanks a lot for that. But today, of course, what we will be looking at will be Residence related. It won't all be Residence. Actually, the first thing we're going to look at is not Residence. And I thought this would be a real easy shoot, a real short clip, until I started getting out everything that was signed. I really wasn't aware of how many signatures I actually had. So yeah, this will take a while. And so I decided to break it down into different segments of this clip. This is the 1978 single, The Spot by Snakefinger. He inscribed it, I believe it reads, all my very beasts, or all my very breasts. Seeing that it would normally be all my best, it's probably breasts. Moving along to a 1982 release of the 81 album, Mark of the Mole. So this is a brown vinyl version, and as you can see here on the back, it was signed by 4 people in pencil. Apparently these were signed by the band. Of course, with the band being anonymous, what difference does that really make, I guess you could say? One way or the other, this is from 82, and there are 900 of them. I was born in 1980, and so to me this is just really, really nice to have, and was one of the first things I got in the collection that really started me going somewhat nuts. Moving on, we have a 1995 edition of the Commercial album, which was originally released in 1980. And this has a booklet that is also signed. The next kind of belongs in 2 categories in this video, but I've decided to put it here, seeing that it does have a CD attached. That is, in 2012, they released this book, Night Train to Nowhere. This was a release of 180 signed and numbered copies. Just see that I can get this nice in frame. This also came with a certificate. And unlike all the other certificates I have, this one is actually a completely different layout. I'm covering the name on purpose because I actually bought this off of someone, and so it is not my name on the certificate, it is someone else's. The next thing I'd like to show you is not really signed, it's not autographed, but it is, however, handwritten. By who exactly? There's no telling. At least up till now, no one's been able to tell me. And it's right back here. That is, this is my copy of Shadow Stories, which was released, so to speak, in 2015. You can see the date on it. And as the story goes, these were really just available at one live show. And they were sealed in a saran wrap, really, with an edition of Shadowland. And like I said, there's no real way of knowing, I guess, especially with the residents who actually wrote this, but if it was truly written by who I like to think it was, then it is that much more special. There are 75 to 80 of these, according to Discogs. So I was very fortunate to find someone who had one, or multiples actually, and was willing to trade for something that I had multiples of. I'm just going to say thanks a lot, Craig. I hope it's okay I mentioned you by name. The next thing I'd like to show you is very, very special to me. It's a 2016 by Psychophone Records of Rushing Like a Banshee. I don't have the box with me here. I'm not going to get it because it's not signed, but it was a red vinyl 45 of the song, and it was limited to 100 boxes. It was a pièce d'art edition, I believe is what it was called. The red vinyl could be put and screwed onto a round metal plate along with a long rusty screw that you could basically display as if it were a broken train axle. There were in total 100 of these. There were 50 glow-in-the-dark, 25 black, and 25 white. So this is one of those 25 white. That is, the logo is white. And as you can see, it is signed by the residents. It is signed by Homer Flynn. It is signed by Eric Drew Feldman. And here I can make out an N, a C, and a K. And I'll leave it at that. The next thing I'd like to show you is a 2017 release. It was the very, very first release by Cherry Red Records, and it was called 80 Aching Orphans, being a compilation of 4 CDs. And for a very short time, they also offered a signed edition. Now, you can already tell that none of these signatures, none of them really resemble what is widely known and recognized as the resident signature. Nonetheless, this is very cool to have simply because it was offered as a signed edition. And yeah, I guess you had to be fast enough to actually order this. If it was really signed by them or not, what's the difference? It's cool to have. Now, the next 3 signatures are actually not residents, but they are very, very resident related. And that is a 2018 reissue of the 1976 classic by Schwump, aka Barry Schwam, may he rest in peace, of Aphids in the Hall. The original of this was released in '76, and there were only 200 of the originals of this, and so Psychophone decided to make a very, very worthy reissue. And not only do I have the ones that I got from Psychophone on my own, but no, before he passed, Mr. Schwam actually had these online on eBay, and so I was able to pick all 3 of them up, and he was so nice and actually signed them for me. Moving on, we have a 2019 release, which is Music to Eat Bricks By. I actually have 2 of these. That is, I got an extra one for trading, and so if you think you have something I might be interested in, let me know. These were hand-stamped covers, and also hand-stamped on the back, an official product stamp, and also both signed. A little like Night Train to Nowhere, this next one could have gone in either categories because, once again, the book is signed, but it does have a CD in the back of it. This is Bad Day on the Midway, which was a book that they brought out in the 90s. That's all the more exact I'm going to get on that one right now. But in 220, they offered this signed paperback edition. The first was a hardcover. And so, of course, I got that. Now, to end this part of the clip, there's one more thing from 2020 that I'd like to show you. The MoMA performance of God in 3 Persons. And this is the vinyl, and of course it is signed. You could also get a program, which also has a list of all the backers that helped crowdfund this. I was also able to get one of these, which were also a part of the crowdfunding. I can't remember what number there were of these, but these were also used in the making of the video. These are two more certificates, one being for the black and white mask that I have, and one being for the muscle mask that I have. There were 4 different kinds of masks. I only got 2 at the time. I've been regretting it ever since, so let me know if you have one of the ones I don't. And while we're on God in 3 Persons, I'm sure a lot of people out there also got this in the mail, which is a thank you note, really, signed by Homer Flynn and Santa Dog and Steve Saporito, who was the producer of that live performance of God in 3 Persons. Okay, so that does it for the music, so let's move on to the next little category. The novel Brick Eaters, and they offered the book signed, but much later than it came out. That is stamped and signed in pen, but me being the signature nerd that I am, like the sound of that, when the book came out and I read online about a book signing they were having, I contacted the store where that was going on and actually had them get me this signed. And that is signed in permanent marker. If you know your res stuff, the next thing I'm going to show you could appear to be very, very rare and very special. It is rare, it is special, but in all fairness, this is not one of the original books that came out and were signed. This book was actually sold on the website of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and they were sold unsigned, because I believe when this initially came out, there was an edition of 20 or maybe 25 of these that were actually signed and numbered in Roman numerals, I believe. And so this is not one of those. It is nonetheless a very, very nice looking signature. I bought this on eBay from someone in the States, and I was actually quite upset about it. It was really packed astonishingly bad. And so, long story short, if I had not wanted it as bad as I did, I would have asked for my money back. I would have refunded that. But, whatever. All's good. Not going to name any names. Okay. Another book that came out, I want to say in 2019, are the collected Bunny Boy emails. This book was compiled by 2 people. It says here on the back, Jen Krayanak and Polly Krayanak. This was published by, and this is French, so bear with me, Bandit Mage, which were the organizers and promoters of the rebuilding of the Bunny Boy Room in Bourges, France. This was also signed. You're probably aware that not long ago Psychophone re-released Pollux Christi, and also a book titled O for Obscurity, or The Story of N, from the Diaries of Ensenada. This was written by a Brit named Andrew Hook, and not long ago there was also the possibility to get a signed copy of this. Another book that is signed, although not by the residents, is this, which is called File Under Popular by Chris Cutler, who res fans should know from playing percussion, I believe, only, on Eskimo, and percussion and drums on the Commercial album. This is also signed Chris Cutler, and I would read that number down there as number 15, although it kind of looks like 0 of 5, which kind of reminds of the way that the residents numbered the original release of Satisfaction, which I don't have. So if you want to give me one, just write me. You might have noticed that I'm not wearing a signed shirt. That's because I don't have a signed residence shirt. I'm not wearing a signed shirt, but I am wearing their signature shirt. So that's close enough, right? But there was a shirt that came out. This was drawn by Adam Weller, not only responsible for this drawing, but also for something else that we'll be looking at in just a minute here. This was accompanied by a small little print of that artwork, and also by 2 certificates, and these are signed. That being signed by Adam Weller, and another signed by Ian Shirley, who is the author of Meet the Residents, which was retitled Never Known Questions when it was re-released. And while we're speaking of Adam Weller, he not only did the graphic art for that shirt you just saw, he also did this wonderful, wonderful comic book to one of my absolute favorite projects, being The Bunny Boy. I was able to get this from a very, very nice British gentleman called Neil Mitchell. Thanks a lot again, Neil. It is signed by Adam Weller, but seeing that we just looked at his signature, no real need to open it. This is my little collection of Res-related comics, all made by Matt Howarth. Not sure if I'm saying that right. It's Howarth. It could be Howarth. Matt, if you see this, if I said it wrong, I'm sorry. I got these directly from Matt's homepage. You can look him up. And just to show you this one up close, it is also signed, as is every other comic that is laying here. And something else, not signed by the band themselves, but just as cool, is this. It's not a book, it's not a magazine, it's a softcover picture book. Let's put it that way. And I don't want to make any mistakes, and so I'm going to have to turn this around, and while I show you this signature, I will look for and read the man's name accordingly. This is signed by Yoshifumi Okuyama, and this is a book that came out when the film Theory of Obscurity came out. I believe this is kind of a rare find outside of Japan, and thanks a lot to Andreas for helping me find this. I'm a big fan of the film, and so this is just a nice little add-on to have. One more signature we're going to look at here. I especially enjoyed this. Come here, you. Because this actually goes over here. Okay, so to start things off, I thought we could take a look at the oldest poster I have, which is a Santa Dog poster from 1979 in an edition of 500 pieces. And seeing that this is older than I am myself, I'm really, really fortunate to have this. For those of you in the know, this came from the collection of Carrie Cerrillos, and I know that he is well missed by many, and so I wanted to give a shout out to Carrie. May you rest in peace, fellow freak. Now I realize that this already being framed, it's glaring pretty bad, but I hope you can see that all 3 of these are also signed. These being from iPop, a German designer by the name of Stefan Wolters. And I especially like these because, as you can see, that red line above the cowboy that turns into the brown one and turns into the pane glass window here on the left. Make up the top line of what would be a top hat. And if you had all the posters from this series, you could actually see a Mr. Eyeball. This is another one based on the American Gothic painting. Those original three, and this one I've already framed. Still looking for frames for these two. Here you can see where the lines meet. So that iris would really be the middle of Mr. Eyeball wearing his top hat. Right here we can see two more from May 2nd and May 3rd. And right there is again where the lines meet. Also made by iPop, but not from that tour or these two, which I was fortunate enough to get signed. And I just love the Pez, that of course says Res on the one, and the Saturday Night Fever styled logo or design of this other one. And another completely different style of poster would be this one. That is definitely in the design of the most famous animation company known to man. I'd prefer not to say the name, but that big D up there should give it away anyway. This is not only signed by the residents, this is like the iPop posters, also signed and numbered. I got 124 of 125, so quite lucky on that one also. And back when you could order the iPop posters on the merch site of residents.com, they were also producing what became I Am a Resident, and they offered this nice poster print, also signed, so I couldn't help myself but pick that one up too. Well guys, and that's it for this episode of ResTube. Thanks a lot for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, add me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, on Twitter, and as always, you guys stay healthy and stay weird. Bye-bye. It's called Arctic. Pardon me. So, this is a brown vinyl.